Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. Hope you're all having a great day. Another day of kind of like under the surface, crazy action in bios. And let's forgive me if you're sick of hearing about bios or you're sick of reading about bios. It is one of my favorite sectors to trade. And just the way this last 2, 3, 4 months has played out, it really set the stage for kind of a wild finish to the year. October kind of got things started. I don't pull up the chart of the IBB very often, but October got things started with earnings, right? And then you had M&A, and then you had some big drug news, and now the sector is absolutely on fire going into what is really shaping up to be kind of a wild December because you have so many big readouts. I did a video specifically kind of going over the setups on a bunch of the bios that I was looking at. And there's still plenty of catalysts remaining, to be honest. For the most part, I'd say the majority of the events actually haven't happened yet. So as we are getting into December here, I mean, it really is like any single day you can expect some news. One of like the best things I think, kind of wake up and it's kind of surprise. You get like a huge move. Um, but what you'll have noticed is I've been talking about these bios a lot, but also we put on like a lot of bio trades, right? So a lot of like early bio trades, AUPH, right? AXXM, right? WVE, Wave. So I'm sure you've noticed that we put on a lot of these trades early, and it was kind of like a twofold strategy. It was uh, basically because that they don't really narrow down the timelines. So they say like by the end of the year, or they say December. Obviously, that leaves like a pretty wide window, right? So whereas like if a stock has like a scheduled earnings date, then like on that specific date it's going to report earnings, right? But for like bios, they don't necessarily, like sometimes they'll narrow it down and say like at a specific conference, like Biogen this week, right? They're presenting data at a specific conference, or the ASH conference this weekend. But then on like the other hand, you have like these other names that are say by year's end, by December. So it's kind of like a scenario where it almost like forces your hand. Like if you want to play that catalyst, you almost have to get involved earlier than you might want, right? Because normally when it comes to like direction volatility strategies like a strangle or straddle, I like to wait just about as to the last minute as possible, right? Because I kind of want to get like that balance between like the bull and the bear side, right? And if you enter early, you run the risk of it having like maybe rip a ton or drop a ton, and then like the whole trade gets like kind of like out of whack, right? Like the skew goes very sharply one way or the other. Um, but bios are a little bit different, and one of the reasons is because like they don't really necessarily give you like a specific date, right? It's more of like a range. So sometimes you have to get involved early because that's really like the only way you can almost like make sure that you can participate in that data release, because you kind of just need to like get involved. And more often than not, I'd prefer to actually push the expiration of the contracts out after like the time frame that it's supposed to occur. So if some of these names were supposed to be presenting data by the end of December, then I'd almost rather push it out to January, right? Because then that should at least cover like the entire window. So if it's like the last day of December, right? Even though for the most part you'd expect it to happen probably before the holidays. Um, and now, like the second reason why is also it's a little bit more. It's not necessarily a definitive reason, right? But it's more like reading like the environment. Like the bios are running so hot. The XBI has been surging, right? The IBB has been surging, and you've had some really fantastic moves, like Riata, right? A recent bio that had data. Some like smaller bios have had data, and just these very 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 sharp moves. So you're kind of like playing the emotion of other people, right? They start to see these stocks report data up a ton or maybe down a ton, and you're almost like kind of anticipating like a surge in demand in the options, right? So it's almost like a ramp into the report, but not necessarily from a stock performance, although obviously AUPH has had a massive, massive move, right? AXSM, massive, massive move. Wave, right, had a massive, massive move. So yes, these from like a stock performance, they've had a massive ramp, but you're also looking at it maybe from like a pricing of the option point of view, right? Because like some of these maybe fly under the radar a bit, but as people start to maybe like look at bios a little bit more, like the sector gets more attention, and people start to like focus on the catalyst, then they're going to start to look at like these names that have news expected. So like again, like APH phase 3, AXSM multiple phase 3s, Wave you got multiple readouts, right? So it's like the getting into these straddles, these strangles. While I normally like to wait until like the last minute for bios, like I'll break my rule a bit because again, like the timing, it's kind of hard to narrow down sometimes, and also because I'm kind of reading the overall environment, right? Like sometimes the bio environment stinks and things aren't really acting great. But right now, the environment's fantastic. Things are flying around. There's a ton of volume, a ton of big moves. So you're almost kind of like playing on the emotion a little bit, right? So you figure that like maybe you want to get involved a little bit earlier, and maybe you want to see if like the options catch a little bit of a surge, right? So along the lines of thinking, there, two names that haven't reported yet. So actually, APLS they pushed back data to early 2020. So maybe sometime over like the next couple weeks, right? We'll start to like look at maybe like a trade on this because this is going to be a pretty big readout. Expectations are pretty high, and it seems like maybe you get like a combination of like the stock, maybe you get like a technical move if it clears like the low 30s, maybe you get like an implied volatility push on the options as we get closer to that catalyst, right? And the other one you want to keep an eye on is Sage. So this is a huge, huge, huge phase 3, and it hasn't really moved. And this is supposed to be in December, so this is one maybe you want to keep an eye on. The only issue with this is that the options are kind of thin. So it's a little bit challenging from the option trading perspective, but also one that's going to be like a really significant catalyst. It's going to catch have a lot of eyeballs on it, but it hasn't really moved much. So like APLS maybe for January, February timeframe, and then Sage probably something you want to keep an eye on because like data could come out basically at any point. All right. So again, sorry for talking your ear off about bios. Personally, I love trading bios. I love when bios are in play because just some great action, and I feel like bio trading is like specifically suited pretty well for options because you got like that defined risk profile, right? So if you like these videos and you're looking for more information on options trading or option trade ideas, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options in play. Best of luck if you guys are playing any of these bio events. I'm hoping for some good moves. Have a fantastic night, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.